Eugen is now in the middle of studying hunter education. Dr. White explains that the world order rapidly changed after the first dungeon break tragedy. The Awakener has the power to change the structure of society, primarily since the hunter found new elements in the dungeon. Technology is developing to the extreme level with magic stones as a new power source. Humanity quickly adapted to this sudden change, and started implementing new systems to manage the awakened. This was the beginning of the creation of hunter associations in every country. Professor Suk Hyen then explained the ranking of the awakens. Awakened ranks are determined by comprehensively considering their stats and skill rankings. Eugen, who was listening, thought Professor Suk Hyen's explanation was very easy to understand. However, several sections needed to be corrected in the textbook, as this was from 5 years ago. The development of knowledge about awakening before Eugen turned back time is enough to explain about awakened skills. Actually, the skill is formed because of aptitude and environment. Professor who saw Eugen doubted her curriculum, asked if Eugen felt something was wrong. Eugen uncomfortably said that he thought of saying that skill manifesting in dangerous situations to protect oneself is too much. There are other cases of awakened manifesting skills entirely unrelated to combat. Eugen firmly said that self-protection doesn't have to do with awakening. Moreover, the study was only based on dungeon break, whereas many other hunters were already awakened afterwards. Professor Suk Hyen, who heard it, became excited. She held Eugen's hand and said that Eugen was very smart, and had even done individual research. The scared Eugen gave a signal to Yerim. Yerim then asked about the fate of becoming an S-rank hunter like her. Dr. White then explained the minimum salary for an S-rank hunter was $10 million. S-rankers were so rare that one could even count on one's fingers in every country. Not only in terms of strength, but the byproducts they brought from S-rank dungeons were of astronomical value. Magic stones, rare flora and fauna, fruits, and sometimes even live magical beasts. After Eugen finished the day's lesson, Eugen was surprised when he entered Yuhyen's house. Eugen saw a monster cub from an S-rank dungeon. A monster called the Horned Fire Lion. The monster has high stats, is very fast, and has strong fire skills. It was a dangerous magical beast that even S-rankers had difficulty fighting with. Yuhyen explained he brought the baby monster to be tamed. But even with the owner's token, taming a high-level monster was not easy. Moreover, taming skill is a very rare skill. Yuhyen again used the owner's token and ordered the monster to come to him, but what happened was the monster intended to attack Yuhyen. When Yuhyen was about to strike back, fire attacks did not work on Horned Fire Lions. Yuhyen, who was annoyed, locked the monster in his garden. Yuhyen said that since he couldn't tame the monster, maybe he would kill it now. He explained that rather than someone else getting the monster, killing him was the right thing. Eugen thinks that killing the monsters would be a waste. Eugen saw the monster's skill and status were very high. However, he was sure that a powerful monster like the Horned Fire Lion could never be tamed, even in the future. At that time, the system suddenly explained that the monster had not been influenced by the keyword. Eugen, who was surprised, muttered that it turns out the skill can be used on monsters too, not just humans. Eugen smiled slyly and asked Yuhyen's permission to take care of the monster. He plans to use his skills so that the monster can become a monster for Yuhyen's mount. Eugen explained that giving up the rare opportunity of having a mounted beast as a rank S monster was a waste. Eugen said this monster was perfect for Yuhyen because of his fire resistance. Eugen believes that with the monster's power, Yuhayan will attain unapproachable power, and Yujin will receive tons of incentives as the one who tamed it. Seeing the monster, Yujin excitedly said that the first step was food. However, Yuhayan explained that besides meat, monsters also need magic stones at least C rank per meal. A 10 million won per meal. While the monster was eating, Yujin entered the garden. Yujin then took out his B rank belt and played with the monster. Yujin, who has experience part-time in a veterinary clinic, can easily make the cub monster to play with. But the level of monsters is indeed different from ordinary animals. Yujin then took out the owner's token and tried to tame the monster. The system explains that his skill, Perfect Nurturer, amplifies the effect of the owner's token. The horned lion that was affected by Yujin's skill became interested in Yujin. It acted cute to Yujin, but still fierce to Yuhayan. Yuhayan then ordered Yujin to raise the monster because it only obeyed Yujin. Hearing that, Yujin started dreaming of influencing a bunch of monsters and becoming a magic beast tamer. Yujin then intends to bring the monster to his dorm. Yuhayan, who was sad to hear that he was going to leave, said that he thought he would live with Yujin like before. Yujin, who didn't want to be locked up by his brother again, said he would often come to Yuhayan's house. Then Yujin said he would name it. Yujin picked Peace as the name. He hoped the monster should be full of love and peace. A few days passed, and Yujin, who was going to complete his basic education mission, was assigned to enter the dungeon. However, Yuhayan, who is super protective, forces them to join the mission. Yujin then asked Myungwoo and Yerim to choose weapons. After selecting weapons and potions, they prepared to enter the D-rank dungeon. Yuhayan gave him a gate stone so they could escape in emergencies. When Yujin saw the dungeon gate, he remembered when he was considered trash in the past. However, now he will enter the dungeon without debt, and be with people who care for him. Yujin smiled and promised to try hard to change his fate this time. Inside the dungeon, Yerim, who was seeing the contents of the dungeon for the first time, was stunned. But unexpectedly, Yuhayan used his skills and burned a mountain there. Yerim, who saw that, became angry. She protested why the guild master burned a beautiful mountain. Yuhayan explained that in the dungeon, they wouldn't know what was happening in the outside world. Therefore, as the strongest, Yuhayan's job is to secure safety and make things progress faster. He again explained that hunters only see the dungeon as a place for new skills and leveling up over time. Yujin then said he was looking forward to what skills Yerim would get. But actually, he could choose a skill for Yerim with his skill. Yujin then chose Pale Rain because he was sure it was the signature area skill that Yerim used to have. Yuhayan again explained that there is a big difference in hunter rank S and below. The higher one's rank is, the more difficult it would be to level up. Yuhayan said Yerim needs to focus on leveling up and not bother Yujin. Yerim, who was annoyed, then argued with Yuhayan. As usual, Yujin started to get annoyed and separated them. Yujin said that Yuhayan's job as a guild leader was to be a guide. And Yerim's job is to hunt and level up. So stop fighting and focus on their own mission. Yujin threatens not to want to see them again if they keep fighting. Forced by circumstances, Yuhayan and Yerim shook hands and made up. In another dimension, something called out that a person who had turned back time entered a dungeon. Someone then said that she had to find out where that person was. He said they could only intervene when that person was in a dungeon. Then the screen showed that what they were looking for was Yujin. Back in the dungeon, Yerim and Yuhayan are now getting along. Yerim herded the monster towards Yuhayan, then he burned it. They sent the monster to Yujin and Myungwoo and told them to kill it. Yujin ordered Myungwoo to stab the monster to get the last hit. He also asked Myungwoo to collect magic stones. That time, Yujin looked at Myungwoo's status and confirmed that Myungwoo's SS skill could be awakened. Apart from needing level 10, another requirement is sharpening 10,000 edged claws. Yujin, who saw that, became confused. It's not tools, but claws, a typo in the system. On the other hand, Yujin, who needed clarification, wondered where the details of Myungwoo's skills that he had never seen in the system came from. Even in the future, nothing's been revealed about the system. People only said that it was a miracle from God. But how can a god make a typo? Are these things being written manually? Everything seems confusing for Yujin. It was then that an even more surprising thing happened. The system absurdly displays a notification that says "Found you, then I'm sorry." Yuhayan suddenly shouted and ran towards Yujin. He and Yerim protect Yujin from a big attack. Yerim said that the dungeon boss had just attacked them. Yujin rebutted and said a D-rank dungeon monster boss wouldn't be able to make such a big attack. But what they saw next was the dungeon boss being eaten by a huge bird-shaped monster. Even though the boss of the dungeon had died, the existence of another monster that was stronger made the monster one-sidedly become the new boss of the dungeon. And they can only get out of the dungeon after killing that monster. Yujin became frightened. He remembered when a strange monster suddenly appeared in a low-level dungeon, making Yuhayan die. But knowing the identity of the monster, Yujin regained his composure. He said that the monster was weaker than Yuhayan. A rank dungeon boss called Golden Beakmia, a rank 2 bird monster with a fire attribute. Yujin explained that the beak is the primary weapon, and the weakness is the skull in the head. Yujin confidently said that they would get out of there alive. Yujin then ordered Yerim to create a barrier with her freezing skill. After that, Yujin ordered Yuhayan to kill the dungeon boss. Yuhayan immediately ran towards the monster. They fought fiercely. Yujin, who saw that, was confused because Yuhayan didn't want to fly and immediately attacked the monster's head. He then realized whether it was possible that, at this time, Yuhayan had not gotten his Blue Willow skill. But the next thing Yujin saw was Yuhayan using his Blue Willow leaves. But what Yuhayan is doing is so bizarre. Yujin shouted and said that Yuhayan should have jumped and stepped on the skill to be able to fly, not do weird stuff. Yuhayan, who heard that, obeyed Yujin. He became happy and said that this way, things would be easier. He immediately attacks the boss monster again and defeats it. Afterwards, Yuhayan said that Yujin was a genius. Yujin could think about making his skill an alternative to a flight skill. Yuhayan, who was very happy, continued to praise Yujin. When they came out of the dungeon, they were greeted by the panicked faces of the guild members. They said that the dungeon suddenly changed rank. Yuhayan then explained what happened in the dungeon. Seong-han, who saw Yujin, immediately came to him. He panicked and fell in front of Yujin while running. Myungwoo, who saw that, became gloomy. Myungwoo seemed to be thinking about something. Inside the guild, Yujin immediately headed to Peace's cage and asked him to play. Yujin then gave Peace food to eat and continued to play with him. After playing, Yujin recalled various strange things in the dungeon. The typo on the system and even talking to him via chat windows. Even the appearance of a rank A boss is very strange. Eugen panicked and wondered whether this was a butterfly effect from him turning back the time. This might be the reason why the system wanted to talk to him. However, Eugen screamed and said that it was none of his concern. The system should have explained all of that before it turned back time. He continued to say that even the system is way too unkind. If he knows, he won't choose the keyword as "I love you." But when he pressed the skill, the status window surprised Eugen. On the other hand, strange people say that the time they could intervene was too short. And it can't be helped, since they are unable to open the passage. They said Eugen could understand it even when they didn't give a detailed explanation. They are confident because they have made it as intuitive as possible. Eugen, who saw his skill become a role book, was amazed. Eugen's skill in the form of a book shows Yuhayan and Yerem as S-rank hunters and 50 other empty columns. Yuhayan, who finished taking a shower, asked why Eugen looked pale. Eugen, who was in shock, could only say to himself that he couldn't possibly tell his brother about the mission he suddenly got. The mission that made him collect and raise 50 S-rank hunters. So that is the end of the chapter. If you enjoy content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to WebStory. And don't forget to check another video in this channel for another interesting story.